A young girl's lifeless body was lying on the bed at the Kasra hospital on September 16 of last year. Drops of blood were flowing down from her right ear. Despite the state's efforts to deny the truth, the images spread the truth all across Iran and the rest of the world that our beloved daughter, Mehsa Amini, is no longer in this world. On that fateful day, we experienced something that was unprecedented in our lives, the beginning of a movement that heralded the revolution for freedom. It wasn't as if we had not seen ruthless injustice and countless crimes committed by the Islamic regime, but with Mehsa's murder, the spread of a nation reached a boiling point. As if the memory of the hundreds of human beings who were burned alive while watching a movie in Abadan, or the summary executions on the rooftop of a school, or those who said no to oppression in Kurdistan, or those who were slain in prisons and buried in unmarked mass graves at Khawaran, and those who were shot on the streets, and even the passengers aboard a plane that was shot down with missiles, and those who were kidnapped and disappeared, and countless others who were assassinated while in exile, suddenly all of their memories came to life in the minds of an entire nation. Everyone was asking why. Everyone was repeating the words of Mehsa's brother Ashkan, who said, "We are helpless strangers in this town." Despite the Islamic State propaganda machinery efforts to distort the truth, Mehsa's family stood bravely firm and resisted the state's disinformation campaign. An enormous rage spread throughout Iran and engulfed the world. And those of us who were survivors of other victims stood firm like soldiers in service of a movement that we could call a revolution for woman, life, freedom. Much more blood was spilled after Mehsa's murder. What remains in our memories after a difficult year behind us is a different image of sorrow and joy. The sorrow behind the cries of fathers and mothers, the sorrow of the brutal hanging of Iran's innocent children, the sorrow of seeing the images of the children, the youth, the girls, the boys, their beautiful faces, the beautiful futures that was robbed from them and their families. The sorrow of watching children who had lost their mothers or fathers to the dictator who lives off of murdering those who say no. But the resistance of a nation is etched in our memories through hundreds of photos and videos. The joy of tearing away the forced scarves, the joy of contagious bravery, the joy of witnessing and experiencing heroic resistance, the women who continue to say no in defiance, the youth who rejuvenated the very act of protest, the artists who joined the masses of their people, and the sight of faces who gave meaning to standing resolute while experiencing intolerable pain. The woman life freedom revolution spread throughout the world in a short period of time. Everyone around the world learned that the people of Iran have reached a point of no return, and the world must begin to contemplate a future without Islamic regime in the Middle East. The revolution that is erupting in Iran is progressive and diverse, but is also fraught with shortcomings. What is evident in the eyes of the people and those who observe from around the world is the absence of progressive, powerful political parties and organizations which need to prepare themselves and our society for the inevitable transition to democracy from the Islamic regime and the ascent to a democratic nation after the Islamic regime. Unfortunately, the efforts to remedy these shortcomings over the past year have not yet borne results because conflicting views on fundamental issues have not reached a meaningful convergence. Over the past year, the Islamic regime has continued to beat on the drums of oppression and made every effort to exact revenge on the people of Iran. It continued to execute, persecute, and imprison many activists and many artists and survivors of victims. By pursuing policies that are against Iran's national interests, the regime continues its hostage diplomacy and further appeasement of China and Russia while trying to force the West to sit across a negotiation table. But the Islamic regime's struggles for survival taught us many lessons. We Iranians learned that we must rely on ourselves. While we continue to invite the world to support Iran's revolution, we know now more than ever that to save Iran, we must only rely on ourselves. And if there is to be a revolution, it must begin and end within the borders of Iran. As someone who has been among the supporters of the revolution from outside of the country, I have remained committed to do everything I can to echo the voices of the protesters inside Iran. There has been nothing more important to me than to support my fellow Iranians' movement. The West must know that our movement is never ending. The West must desist any further appeasement of the Islamic regime and refrain from acting as an obstacle of the massive waves of change in Iran. The West must not be a safe haven for the regime's officials and their families. I tried to attend as many rallies around the world as I could and to be one of the many who helped to strengthen the resistance. I know that the way towards democracy, social justice, environmental justice, and justice for the regime's victims, the path towards an absolute separation of religion and state in Iran, is difficult, painful, and long. I know that the environmental conditions in Iran have reached the point of no return. I also know that huge changes are about to inevitably come about. I know that things will not be easy. I know that justice for every single victim and bringing to justice the perpetrators of those who fired missiles or bullets, including those who gave the orders, will take time. But we have no choice. If we don't meticulously, patiently, and carefully pursue the path towards change, we shall remain entangled in, if we don't meticulously, patiently, and carefully pursue the path towards change, we shall remain entangled in never-ending cycle. And if transitional justice is not exercised correctly and our nation descends into a culture of revenge, execution, elimination, torture, and persecution, and if every single perpetrator of crimes is not brought to justice, there is no guarantee to reach a democratic future of our country. And I know that democracy and the proactive participation of people cannot be realized without creating and strengthening civil society, civil institutions, workers' unions, real political parties and organizations, and a free and independent press who are committed to democratic values. I also know that along the path to transition from the tyranny of the Islamic regime, we must remedy the void that is left behind from the absence of civil institutions and political parties. The existence of a powerful civil society, a free press, and the participation of the academic community, both within Iran and abroad, and the support of the people can guarantee our success in achieving justice and democracy. My objective has been and remains to help create civil institutions and organize political and professional organizations around various layers of our society. I have traveled to many cities and engaged with the youth to discuss these objectives. Fortunately, the Iranian diaspora has created many organizations in cities around the world. An effective network of these organizations can provide legal, financial, and medical assistance for our fellow Iranians inside Iran. I have played my part in connecting these potent organizations and to inform them of each other's existence. I know that very soon, larger Iranian organizations will take shape around the world, organizations that rely only on the Iranian diaspora and their compatriots inside Iran. I remain hopeful. Despite so many obstacles and despite massive disinformation campaigns that have consumed many, I shall continue my efforts with increasing resolve and commitment. I know clearly that I'm not fighting to take down some from the saddle of power and to bring others to replace them. What I see in the future is a revolution. And in this revolution, real upheaval and change is destined to take place. My hope is that one day I shall attend an independent tribunal in Iran and see the murderers of my loved ones and so many others, the murderers of every child of Iran, be brought to justice. On Saturday, September 16, we joined the thousands of our fellow Iranians in Toronto, united with the slogan, "Woman, Life, Freedom," knowing that sooner or later the Islamic regime shall be toppled by Iranians. We must all prepare ourselves for that day. We shall learn the truth and we shall achieve justice. We shall never forget, nor shall we ever forgive. Thank you.